welcome to a new episode of Let's Process, an After Ellen podcast. I am your host, Dana Pickley, and I'm so glad to be back here with you with Let's Process. We had a little bit of a small vacation there, but we are back. I say we as in it's more than one person. It's just me. But anyway, I'm really excited about this week's guest, which is actually why I know that we normally do the newsy bits at this point, but this interview actually went pretty long, which is always amazing, and I know that you're excited to get to it. So I just want to tell you a couple things. As you know, this is pretty much a huge year in terms of movies featuring lesbian and bisexual leading characters. And so I wanted to give you the lowdown. I know we cover these films all the time in After Ellen, but sometimes we forget about release dates, you know? It's like, when did I read that article a couple weeks ago? Anyway, I am here to let you know that there are films that you can see right now, and also films that are coming to your local indie cinema or mainstream cinema. That's even better. So I wanted to give you kind of a rundown of those. Right now, on video on demand, you can watch Bear, starring Diana Agron. You can also buy it on iTunes. Head over to Wolf Video and you can get Liz in September. You can rent that and you can buy the DVD. Now, the big one, Carol, is opening in select theaters November 20th and then hopefully nationwide very shortly thereafter. And then on December 1st, you'll be able to check out All About Eve. And on December 8th, you can check out The Girl King. And those are both available through Wolf Video. So, those are just a handful of some of the amazing, amazing films coming out this year. And so, we need to make sure that we support these films, that producers, that the people that make films know that these are important to us. So, you have a mission if you choose to accept it, and I hope you do. Anyway, so now I'm going to turn over the podcast to our special guest, Elise Bauman. All right? Are you ready? Great. All right, folks, because Let's Process would not be complete without this next guest, I am so glad that she took time out of her very busy schedule to talk to us. It is Carmilla and Almost Adults' very own Elise Bauman. Elise! Thank you!
I'm giving myself a round of applause right now.
As you should.
No one's here.
As you should. I think it's important that we cheer ourselves on from time to time.
Totally.
I often get asked, because I get to meet a lot of people, and I got to meet Elise when I was in Toronto just a few weeks ago, and I always get asked, what's so-and-so like in real life? What's so-and-so like? Elise is exactly in real life the way you expect her to be. She is super, super nice. She saw me. She, busted across the room to, say hi to me, which was super sweet, because sometimes reporters and people that, journalists and stuff, we don't really get, much attention. And so, she, made a beeline for me. It was so nice. She asked me about my, wife and my family. So, yes, she is, human kitten incarnate.
Well, thank you.
So now we finally get a chance to talk on Let's Process.
Yeah.
We've had an interview before, but it was on, on the site, so we actually haven't had a chance to chat. So we're just lounging. I've got my, what is this?
Feet up in my big chair right now.
I've got a Blue Jays shirt on, which
Perfect.
I'm from New York, so Mets fans don't be hating. And I've got, I don't even know what this is. It just has a maple leaf on it, so I bought it.
Awesome. In New York you bought that?
No, in Toronto I bought this.
Perfect.
I'm all Toronto decked out for Elise. So Elise, let's get down to business. You're young. You're a fairly young lady. How did you get
I anymore? I hit 25 last week.
Oh my God. Put her out to pasture, you guys. Make it quick.
I've got my coffin all ready.
Oh, shush.
Put down my deposit on it with my credit card.
Shush. Enough. But how did you get your start in acting? When did you get the bug? When did the bug bite you?
The bug bit me really early. I was 10 when I did my first professional theater play. So I sort of grew up in the theater, and I was homeschooled for most of my life, up until grade 10 of high school. So I spent most of my formative years um, doing plays, and it was great. I loved it. I actually did my first play in. I grew up going to a Mennonite church pretty frequently, and was raised in a fairly religious home. Um, and one year my church put on a play, and it was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I played Lucy. Was that the little girl? Something like that. And I felt I loved it. I was obsessed with like with magic and fairy tales, and I was always really drawn to books where people would like go back in time and stuff. And then I kind of felt like I got a little glimpse into that of what it was like to do that on a stage, and I loved it. And if I'm being honest, I also really loved the attention as a kid.
Yes, thank you. You know what? I am proud of any actor that can say that, because nobody's like, I want to be an actor just like because no. There is always an element of attention there.
Absolutely, totally. And I think it's so important to be honest about that and like really check yourself when that happens, because that's been a big part of my growing process this year. Finally got kind of like getting a lot of attention all of a sudden and getting swept up in that a little bit, and I think I'd like beat myself up about that for a little bit, and then now I'm kind of realizing that I just have to clock it when it happens, and that's all I have to do. I just have to be aware of it when it's happening or after it happens, and then I can start becoming more aware of it like when it's actually happening, and then kind of like change course a little bit.
I'm really curious. I was actually not aware that you were raised Mennonite. Are you still a practicing Mennonite?
I'm not. No, I left. I left. I stopped going to church when I was 16. It's so funny. I was just talking about this with Justin Gerhard, who's in Almost Adults with me. He was actually raised Mennonite as well, and we went out for lunch yesterday with his sister, and we were talking about that. And I was saying that I'm really happy that I was raised with the sort of I'm happy that I was raised that way, because the underlying fundamentals of it I really appreciate and value it, and I think sometimes with religion, oh my god, we're like getting into this already. It was like 5 minutes in the interview.
It's excellent.
I think things can just like be misconstrued, and people can use it in different ways, and for me it's just the narrative of going to church didn't feel genuine to me. And so when I left, I was 16, and I felt like I had to sort of, I feel like it wasn't justified for me to just say, you know what, this doesn't feel authentic to me. It just doesn't, I don't connect to it the way that you guys connect to it. And so I was really like anger and bitter sort of when I left. And now I can really see it and appreciate it for what it was and what it gave to my life. And I find those same things in different ways. Like I go to yoga. Acting is a hugely spiritual thing for me, as like weird as that sounds.
Doesn't sound actually weird at all. Doesn't sound weird at all. I find even though I don't really perform very much anymore, I find that even when I step on a stage and I do like karaoke, it brings me to a place that I feel so, like you use the word authentic. I feel so authentic when I'm in that place. So I totally get it.
Being like something that's really come into my life lately is this idea of presence, of just being really present with someone and in a conversation in the moment that's happening, and that to me is, I find that in yoga, and I find that in acting classes, and that to me is almost like more spiritual than going to a building. But I also really understand people that need to do that and feel that like that's where their sense of community is. It's just that that's not where my sense of community ever really was. Yeah.
Well, for those of you who are listening who aren't familiar with the Mennonite religion, it's a very like, like you can be Presbyterian or you can be Catholic, and that's kind of like, okay, I'm Catholic or whatever. But like being a Mennonite, it's a very like kind of consuming kind of situation, is it not? I mean, it kind of does it. There's a lot of community aspect to being Mennonite.
I mean, there's definitely sort of like varying degrees of it, I think. Like, I think a lot of times when I say that I was raised Mennonite, people like automatically go to like horse and buggy, like
it
farm
is kind
country,
of like there is a connection
like,
between
Amish,
like the
like,
Mennonite and Amish kind of religions,
Yeah.
but that's like a very kind of orthodox part of
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah,
So
totally.
you're saying you didn't take a buggy to school?
No. I used to like make jokes and people would ask me about like being Mennonite. I was like, well, yeah, like this year was like really rough on like the farm, and so we downgraded from like 2 horses to like 1 horse on the horse and buggy, and like just like it's like the same thing as making Canadian jokes. Like, I remember when I was living in New York, some guy like heard that I was Canadian, and he was like, so what is it like out there? And I was like, oh, well, like the igloos really just like keep the insulation in, and like the fire in the igloo just like makes it really warm. He's like, oh wow, yeah. And he was just like, I was just like joking, and he like bought into everything I was saying. It was
I appreciate so much your sense of humor about yourself. It's like so many people take themselves so seriously, and it's like if you can just have a little bit of humor about yourself, it makes the world so much easier to navigate.
Yeah, that's a good. It's you know what? It's actually really nice to hear that, because I'm not feeling that way today at all. And so it's like I just like I went to a yoga class earlier this morning and had a bit of a moment, and I think it's so easy to just get so in your head about things, and I definitely do have to remind myself of that too, of just kind of like look at like the cosmic joke of it all. Like, I catch myself in these moments where I'm like taking my career and my life so seriously, and like trying to like plot out how I'm gonna like figure it all out at the age of 25, and it's nice to just kind of have moments like that.
Because you're a fetus. You're literally a fetus.
Yeah, I know. I literally am like, I know I was joking about it, but I'm still so young. There's so much.
I don't even remember being 25. Like, I blocked that entire year out.
Yeah.
I want to say I was like on a horse and buggy in a Mennonite. No, sorry, that's not me. That's not me at all. No, but yeah.
A weird dream I had the other night.
All right. Enough razzing you. So you have like a bunch of projects going on right now. You have a couple in the can, which are super exciting. And of course, we want to talk about almost adults, as you guys say.
How do you say that word? Do you say adults or adults?
In the United States, we say adults. But adults is fine too. I'm going to say it adults from now on.
I've just been like flopping back and forth between the two in hopes that like 50% of the time I'm saying it right.
You know what? I think it's like a tomato thing.
Yeah, sure.
That I don't think anyone really says tomato, but unless you're British, but it works.
Exactly.
But actually, I want to ask you about Below Her Mouth, which I know you just were working on. So what's your role in that?
Yeah, I play a fashion magazine editor's assistant. Yeah, so which is hilarious because I live in yoga pants most days and sneakers. So it was sort of weird seeing all these like costumes they were trying on me, and I am 5'2", and
you were trying to get your Emily Blunt on, is what you're saying?
Yeah, like literally when I went to the costume fitting, and everything was just like 4 sleeves too long for my limbs. So
a lot of pins,
in a very nice blazer and some ripped jeans, which I appreciated. Yeah, it was fun. It was really nice to work on something new. I had only one day on set, but it was really fun, and it was an entirely female crew, which is insane and unheard of, which is why it's insane. And it was actually awesome because I showed up to set and I knew a bunch of the female crew members from almost adults, and from other projects that I had worked on over the years. And it was really cool to like see these people, and I was a bit nervous. It was my first sort of like big movie set that I've been on outside of the things that I've been working on this year. And it was nice to just like see familiar faces there, and yeah, it was cool to be a part of. I got to chat with the actors a little bit, and I just think it's so fascinating to talk to actors about their process, and they really were just it. I got the sense that they gave a lot of themselves to these roles, so I'm really, really excited to see it.
You know what I always love about the Carmilla kids, and I know I always teasing so you guys are kids, but like seriously, fetuses. What I've always loved about you guys, and whenever I talk to you, you are all like actors. You are really, you're not just like floating through life, like doing stuff, like, and you are all very, you, Annie, Caitlin, Natasha, like you are all very invested in like being actors, and I think that's so great because I've seen over the years, like way too many of my own friends like get so distracted by other stuff. But you guys are like seriously head on into it, and I think that's really cool and something really unique about your little group of like your troupe, let's call it the Carmilla troupe,
the traveling circus troupe. That's what it feels like sometimes. Well, thanks for saying that. I think I definitely, it's been such a crazy year, and I really have realized so much more that it is the work that's satisfying more than anything else. And I don't think I was really honest about it last year, but I really struggled with the sort of like transformation into my work sort of suddenly being in the public eye a little bit, and it can really easily shift and like transform into something. It becomes about things that it shouldn't be about, and so I've definitely realized that being in acting classes and just really connecting to like why I want to do it, and the crazy amount of love that I have for it, and not like denying myself that love for it. So yeah, it's been good. I think I'm like finally kind of like realizing that. Yeah.
Obviously, Carmilla became this juggernaut, this like unstoppable force of nature.
I've never heard that word before, and I'm going to use it
juggernaut?
all the time now.
Juggernaut. But yeah, so I mean, obviously this is, I know all of you have gone through a tremendous amount this year with being like going from like being just like, you know, working actors to being like internet celebrities. I mean, people writing love poems to you and drawing your pictures and, you know, I mean, and for somebody who, and I'm only like making this observation, but you seem to be like somebody who really values their private space. I mean, like was that kind of hard to be in a position where like your private life doesn't always exactly feel like it's yours anymore?
I mean, first of all, like I am dealing with it on such like a smaller level compared to so many people, so I actually feel like I really was sort of like really lucky in that sense that I get to kind of like go through the growing pains of being in the public eye without like really, really being in the public eye, which is great. Like it's because I feel like I was able to like I still am able to like make a lot of mistakes and kind of like go too far in one end of the spectrum and then kind of go too far on the other end of the spectrum and like really find balance and realize that that's like a working progress and it's always continuing. But I think I'm still really trying to figure out how to balance everything on social media. Because part of it is a job, and part of it is, like, I have to keep in mind that casting directors are looking at that stuff these days. And there's, you know, there's, like, a part of me that kind of, like, gets caught up in, like, in creating, like, an image for myself of, like, what that is. And it can be... And then I get really frustrated and I just like don't go on it at all for like a few weeks, or I used to do that at least. And so I think, it's been really, really interesting, and I've talked so much to friends about it, and I was reading about that girl this morning. Did you hear this girl who was like an Instagram star? Yes. Yeah, and I find that so interesting, and I think there is like a really big shift of people kind of going like, hey, like, this isn't it. And I think that's really been one of the biggest things for me, is that you can only be so truthful on the internet, like, and it's even easier to just like have a conversation with someone like over Skype like this than it is to like tweet something or write something. But I think for me, there's this huge part of myself sometimes that just like wants to like scream like, you like, this isn't necessarily the whole picture. And it's so easy for people to see things and think that maybe like that's sort of like the answer to everything. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to like really take responsibility for that and realize that I've sort of like been given this. Like I didn't really ask for it, and I was given it, and it really is up to me to figure out how to be authentic within it. Because I think that's the thing. I see people comparing themselves to my internet life sometimes, and honestly, like, my own day-to-day life doesn't live up to my internet life sometimes, you know? Like, and that's what's so crazy about it all. And yeah, so trying to really be aware of that, and then also realize that I'm not going to just like figure it out within a day and know that I'm just going through it. That's all.
Well, fame is a tricky thing because it can be a gift and a burden at the same time.
Totally.
And it's like, how do you balance that? And how do you respect and love the fans that who are there and who so want to support, and it's like, absolutely. And it's amazing. It's like this amazing experience, but also it's like, how do you? It's a work-life balance. It just like, totally. Everybody has to go through at some point, but but like, you're under a microscope, whereas somebody, who's like a lawyer or a doctor or something, they're not dealing with that so much in the public eye. Whereas like, you go to the grocery store and buy an apple and like, people freak out. Like, that's like, that's the world that you live in. And so it's
so accurate, me buying apples.
No, like, I know at least like Honeycrisp apples because that's what the internet tells me.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to Almost Adults.
Yeah.
The trailer came out recently. It looks awesome. I loved it. You were paired up with Natasha Negovadlis. You go to like the Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn of the Millennial set.
Nice. Awesome.
So what was your experience like working on this film with so many great ladies?
It was... I can't say enough good things about that film. Like, I just feel like I start like beaming. You
started glowing. Like, I can't even see you anymore because it's just like light blasting off of you. I think actually I burned my cornea.
I'll give you some Toronto Blue Jays sunglasses next time I see
I'll have to come and get some good old Canadian healthcare.
I mean, I had a moment where I just was so excited when that trailer came out, and I don't normally it's so funny, like, there's still so many people in my life that like don't really know what is going on in my career, I guess I would say. And I try to sort of like keep like my personal Facebook sort of like separate from that.
As you should.
And I just had a moment where I was like, I am so fucking proud of this thing. And like, I'm just gonna allow myself to like feel that. So I just like, I shared it, and I, cause like, that was my first feature film. And it felt really good, and it was such a good experience, and I made so many like amazing new friends on that. Yeah, it was really great. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm a little nervous to see it, but I'm seeing it soon, I think, and I'm also just really excited because it was It was I literally couldn't have asked for a more perfect situation for my first feature film. It was like working with people that I love, and a story that I care about, and yeah, it was great.
You and Natasha are really lucky in that you guys have this amazing natural chemistry as actors together, and not even just that, but like when you guys are like doing an event together or something, like you can see that there's just like, it's a gift. Like as an actor, I can tell you it's super hard to find that, and you guys have it, and it's so great to watch whatever roles you're playing. Just the fact that you're like bouncing off each other's natural chemistry is always so cool to watch.
Yeah, cool, thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to see us in a different project. I haven't seen much of the stuff from Almost Adults yet. And so it'll be interesting to like see us in a new relationship and a new dynamic. And I think we did really good work together on that, especially knowing that we were filming Carmilla like literally like 2 days after we wrapped Almost Adults.
Well, okay,
so we like switched gears real quick there.
So tell us about Mackenzie. Because awkward lesbians are my favorite kind of lesbians.
Yeah.
How would you describe her?
Mackenzie, so story fact-wise, she's just about to graduate college, and she's had this relationship with her best friend since she was a little girl. They've grown up together. They've kind of done everything together. They're roommates. And then all of a sudden she decides that it's time to come out. And someone asked me the other day, I can't remember who it was.
It was me.
It was probably you. Someone was like, why do you think Mackenzie wouldn't have told her best friend that she was gay? And that was something that I thought a lot about while we were filming, and I try to ask myself those questions when I'm working on anything, and I think it's so much harder to tell the people that you love the most those things, because I think part of you has to admit that you've been lying this whole time, and that's like a pretty intense thing in any relationship, to kind of go like, hey, I haven't really been truthful with you this whole time, and worry that the relationship is going to change, and worry about losing something while you're gaining this other new thing.
Yeah, the fear of rejection is really intense.
Yeah, totally.
And you nailed it, because I remember when I came out to like people that were like on the periphery of my life first.
Yeah.
Because I was so worried, like if I told my best friend and she hated it or she was freaked out or upset, like I didn't know if I could handle losing her yet.
Totally.
So I think you totally nailed that.
Yeah, it's kind of like dipping your toe in the water too, like just kind of like testing out the words in your mouth.
We call it, there's a phrase called dipping your toe in the lady pond, and that just made me think of that. Sorry.
Mackenzie definitely dips her toe in the lady pond.
She dips all of her toes in the lady pond
before she's, fully submerged. But it was such I loved working with Sarah, the director, so much. I've never really worked that way before. Like, she would do a lot of improv with us. Like, we had a rehearsal day where she would just kind of like throw out scenarios, and then the actors would just kind of like go wild and like do like, she'd be like, cool, so you and Cassie are eating pizza and talking about hypothetically being lesbian, and your mom is just like, she would like throw out scenarios, and then we would just roll and we would just go, and like sometimes they would last for like so long, and she would ask us questions too. I don't know if I can say this without really giving away plot stuff, but she would just like throw out really intelligent questions about like, why do you think Mackenzie is like Yeah, that's in the trailer. Why do you think Mackenzie's like telling other people before she's telling her? Why do you think she's like putting it on social media before she's like, is there maybe like a part of her that like wants her best friend to like find out um before she has to like tell her, like, and so it was really cool to have Sarah there and just start asking those questions and yeah, it was really interesting.
So she really facilitated a way for you to feel like you were a bigger part of the project and not just like reciting these lines. Like, okay, like I'm playing my character, which I love, blah, blah, blah. But like you actually got to put like your own beating heart into the project.
Totally, yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. Like it's so crazy to me. I realized that when I'm watching a film, I'm getting like maybe 10% of the creative process that goes into that. And I realized this fully. I was watching interviews with Brie Larson when she was doing interviews for Room.
Mm-hmm.
I love Brie Larson so much, and these interviews, like you should just go binge watch like all of her interviews.
I think you're like the Canadian Brie Larson.
Can we just like write that on wall somewhere?
You know what, quote it and be like, Dana Piccoli says, Elise Ballman is the Canadian Brie Larson.
I'm gonna put that on my IMDb.
Please do.
That's like the ultimate compliment. I love her so much. She's so amazing. Oh my goodness. But she had the most like insightful and intelligent responses to all the questions that people were throwing her way, and like the amount of prep that she did for Room is like unbelievable. And like she stayed at home for a month by herself just to kind of like get this thing that she was kind of like, she's like, you know, you can only like Google so much about what it's like to like be held captive, like isolated for 7 years. And so, yeah, and I realized, I was like, it's so crazy to me, like the amount of work that like the crew, the cast, that like everyone puts into this thing, and then everything that's cut on like the editing room floor, like everything that's like all these things, like the parts of the script that were rewritten like while we were filming it that will never see the light of day, and then the movie's released, and I realized like that's not even the whole picture. And it's like a 2-hour long movie. Like, that's so exciting and crazy. Yeah.
You're kind of like an acting nerd.
I'm such an acting nerd.
You can put that on your IMDb page too. Dana Piccoli of After Ellen says. I've always wanted to be quoted in one of those sorts of things. So.
Oh my God, please.
All right.
The fans will be on that in like 1 second.
All right, so come on, let's talk about Carmilla. This season, you really got to show off your skills as an actress big time. What were some of your favorite scenes this season? Because God bless you, you had to cry an awful lot.
Yeah. Oh man, this season was such a whirlwind and so crazy and so amazing. I feel like I know I've said it before, but I really do feel like I was given such a gift of this character and of like this arc this season. I think one of the biggest things was after the first season and it kind of like catapulting into success. I felt a little bit like I had trapped myself a little bit, and how do I phrase this? I felt a little bit like there was only one sort of aspect of me that I was really allowing and sharing with people, and that can feel very limiting. And so this season, I got the scripts and I just had such a connection to them right off the bat. And also part of me was like, oh God, like I don't want to have to do this. Like,
it's tough.
It is.
Laura goes kind of this, to me personally, like, yeah. I felt like Laura went from being like hero and crept into anti-hero territory for a little while. It was kind of like this, and to watch her realize it as it's happening was like really amazing.
Yeah. and I think in season 3, knock on wood, that there'll be more of like an awareness of that of from her, and an admitting of that. But yeah, I feel like I definitely relate to it on such a personal level, and I always try to bring that into my work of like, how can I share what I know about the world, from my perspective into this character. And for me, I feel like sometimes people have this perspective that I'm like always happy and always like have everything figured out, and it was kind of nice, like through Laura I kind of got to say like, listen, like I'm a human and there's lots of different things going on at one time, and I think for me, like the most vulnerable thing about season 2 wasn't the tears and wasn't that kind of stuff, because I think it's pretty easy, like for actors too, and for anyone to kind of go like, oh yeah, that's the gold, that's the stuff, but
that's not the stuff.
Yeah, that's not. It's. I mean, like I've trained a lot, and I kind of like, I know how to do that, and for me, like the next kind of like step in my work that I was really happy that I got to like bring into season 2 was the admittance of things that like admitting how jealous I can be, admitting how mean I can be at times, admitting how exhausted I can be, admitting how much I want to blame others. That's a big one. That's a big one for Laura. So that those were like the most vulnerable aspects of season 2 for me, was kind of going like, hey, like, where can I admit that I've been given this character. So the work now that I have to do is go, okay, where do I admit in my own life that I do that? And I think it's especially interesting, like, when you have such a strong reaction towards something, that's like where the truth is. Like when I would like read a script and go like, I really don't understand why Laura's doing that, I don't accept that, blah 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 blah, I was like, okay, take a breath, like that's where you need to go to, like that's where you have to admit in your own life when you do that, and then share it in the work. So that for me was a big thing, and I feel really like honored that I got to do that and do that in such a limited time frame. So
yeah, it's very wham bam thank you man, isn't it?
Everything I wanted to hit, but
well, Elise, I am very impressed with you on so many levels. But we have reached the time of the podcast that I like to call the lesbian lightning round.
Oh God. I love this already.
Now, you did not get to experience the lesbian lightning round. The first time I interviewed the Carmilla cast, you were absent. So now you get your own. I asked a lot of Canadian questions last time, but this is I kind of go into your world, and I pick questions that might pertain to you, okay?
Gotcha.
You have to answer these quickly, okay? You gotta just
okay.
like
I'm preparing myself.
Use your gut, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Tree pose or downward facing dog?
Tree pose.
Sweatpants or dresses? I already know the answer to this.
Sweatpants. Definitely sweatpants.
All right. Blue Jays or maple leaves?
Maple leaves.
Leaves. So you need to explain to me why it's not the maple leaves, because to me that just doesn't make a lot of sense.
What did I say? Leaves?
No, you're correct. It is the maple leaves. But why is it the maple leaves? Isn't that the plural?
That's a really good point. I have no idea.
Canada, you have made a huge grammatical error.
The maple.
We need to bring
thinking about was maple syrup. That's like my mind was just like on maple syrup, and I couldn't focus.
We need to bring this up with your new hot prime minister.
Oh yeah, yeah. He went trick or treating with his family. How cute is that?
He is adorable. Yes. Okay. All right. This one's really important.
More. Yep.
All dressed or ketchup?
Neither.
You're not a potato chip person.
I'm not a potato chip person, but I am a huge dessert person.
Is there like a special Canadian dessert I should know about?
Special.
Well, you spend a lot of time in New York too. Like, what's your favorite dessert?
Okay, well, first Canadian dessert are the little maple candies. Have you ever had those?
Yes.
It's literally just like maple syrup that's been condensed, and it's it's just sugar. Big fan of tiramisu. Big fan of donuts. Like every dessert.
All right, next time I come to Toronto, we are going on like a donut expedition together because if I could only eat one food for the rest of my life, it would be donuts.
I will take you to Baker Bots.
I haven't been there.
Up the street you have been?
I haven't. No, I've been to Glory Hole, but I have not been there.
I haven't been to Glory Hole, so we'll do like double time.
If Canada lets me in, I will be there.
Just get them to call me at the border.
Okay, like, can you call Elise Bowman? She's very popular.
They're like, I don't know who that is.
All right, back to the serious seriousness.
Yeah.
Evil Perry or Wiccan Perry?
Evil Perry.
Of course, that's the correct answer. Since you and Natasha have been such a good match on screen, here's a hypothetical. You and Natasha are cast in a remake of a famous film as the two leads. What roles and what film?
I've never seen it, but I'm gonna say Thelma and Louise.
That would be pretty. The millennial Thelma and Louise. I don't know
what happens, but I get the sense that there's some like danger and debauchery.
Well, they go. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Things don't end well for them.
I think I've heard that part. I think I've. Movie magic.
Great film though. Amazing actresses originally. I could see it.
I saw a scene from it in a class this summer, and the girls like knocked it out of the park. It was so good, and I have been meaning to watch it ever since.
Was it the scene in the car where they like clasp hands? Because
no, it's a scene where they're like in the motel, and one of them's like, we just got away with this, and the other one's like, can you not? So
all right.
Yeah.
Make it happen, people. Cream Puffs out there, everyone. Natasha and Elise as the new Thelma and Louise. Listen, if they can make Jem into a new movie with millennials, they can make Thelma and Louise.
They can do anything.
If you can make Jem, you could do anything. Elise, I want to thank you so very, very much for joining me on Let's Process. This has been a true pleasure.
This has been so nice. It's so nice to just chat.
It is nice to just chat. I'm like a hermit alone in my office all the time. It's so nice to see someone on the screen.
I know.
So obviously you have a huge Twitter following, but where can fans find you on Twitter who don't currently follow you?
They can find me at my horrible name that I created when I thought that I was going to have maybe like 10 Twitter followers. Because all of the variations on my name were taken. So I used a 3 instead, like the numeral 3 instead of a B. So it's ELISE numeral 3 AUM.
I like it. It works for me. So we will definitely be following your career as it trajects on the juggernaut trajectory. And of course, Almost Adults is going to be coming out fairly soonish in the next few months-ish. You're gonna go on the festival circuit, blah 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 blah, all the good stuff. And make sure Carmilla happens season 3, so everybody save Carmilla. And thank you, Elise. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
I have to tell you, being a podcast host, not a bad job. Anyway, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Dana Pickley, and that's 2 C's, 1 L. We'd love it if you followed us after Ellen, just like it is, after Ellen. And of course, like we always say, please let us know if there's anybody that you want us to pursue to try to get on the podcast. We are game if you are game, and your suggestions are super helpful. So, until the next time we meet, keep processing.